welcome. My name is Steve Taglianetti, and I'm a Senior VP here at Roctek. Roctek has been in the business of creating and selling software for takeoff, both structural and excavation, for about 30 years. So we've been around a long time. We do our own development. We have a big team here that is constantly adding user features based on input that we get from estimators and owners in the field, and we're very customer responsive. What I'm going to show you today is our WinEx master software for excavation, and I'm going to pull that up. And here's our opening screen. Our WinEx master software has the ability to do takeoffs on screen or using a digitizer, and you can go back and forth on the fly. You don't need to worry about a scale. Once you set the scale on one, it will be valid for both. And we're able to not only use PDF files, but JPEGs, TIFFs, BMPs, CAD files, DXF and DWGs, and also PDF vector files. And if you don't know what a PDF vector is, we've been seeing more and more of them over the last year. It's a relatively new file type that many engineers and architects are sending out. Sometimes they won't send you the CAD file, especially if they know that you have AutoCAD, because they're a little bit shy that you may be able to change the file, but they'll certainly send you the PDF vector. And you won't know if a file has vector graphics in it unless you open it in our software, in which case we'll pop up a window telling you that the software has information in it that we may be able to import and eliminate the tracing. So I'm going to show you one of those in just a little while. This particular one is a CAD file. We have the ability to lay a PDF in the background and then lay a CAD, export from a CAD directly onto that PDF. And a couple of things before we get started. Unlike many software providers in this market who use what's called the TIN network, which stands for a triangular irregular network, and is a series of triangles spread all over your drawing, they, for the most part, can only give you the elevations where the vertices, or the points of the three triangles, touch another triangle. And those triangles are fat and they're skinny, tall and short. So they're limited as to where they can pull elevations from and how often they can pull it throughout the drawing. We use a cell and grid method, which is user changeable on the fly. So you can put literally up to 1 million cells across your site. And from the middle of each cell, we go out in 128 different directions and pull in all of the topographic information that we can that is related closely to that cell and to the other cells on the drawing. So when you're doing a long trench run or curves or parking lots or roads, we'll give you very tight, very accurate results. And not only that, but you'll notice that when I go through the takeoff, that our takeoff itself, the 3D maps or our shading maps, and the quantities are all tied in together. And that's a big advantage that the cell network gives you. So we're looking at a PDF here, and I'm going to just point out a couple of navigational items. Things you'd expect in any Windows software. We have the ability to zoom in, zoom out, and you can also do this with the scroll wheel on your mouse. Here's a button that I use often when I'm doing a drawing. I'll click on this. It's called Zoom to Area, and it allows you to hold your left mouse button down and drag it over an area, and you can zoom in very closely. And this button will zoom out. This will take you to your last area zoomed. Now, one of the nice features among many features about working on screen, of course, is you're not dealing with paper and so forth and needing to take things down on a digitizer. But one of the things that can happen is that you get zoomed in so close in an area, you kind of lose your perspective of where you are on the drawing. So we have an icon up here called our Drawing Navigator, and you'll notice if you hold your mouse over any one of our icons, a description will come up, which will help when you're first learning our software. The Drawing Navigator will put a smaller version of the plan down here in the right-hand corner, and you can resize this red box, and you can move it anywhere on the drawing so that you can zoom in, zoom out, and so forth very easily without going up and hitting zoom out, zoom in, and or using your scroll wheel. Now, what I'm going to do first is I'm going to turn the zoom off, and I'm going to right-click my mouse, and that brings up a context-sensitive menu. And the very first thing we want to do is we want to set the scale for the job. So I'm going to click that. And if you've got a known scale like I have here or a known dimension line, you would use this first option. If you didn't, you would click into this box and you could put in your engineering scale or your architect scale, either way. But I'm going to choose the first option here. And because that scale, as we all know, is a very important measurement, I'm going to zoom into it. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to use my zoom to area button, and I'm going to drag it over the scale so that I can see it and be very accurate with this. That brings up my calculator, put in my scale, and then the software will start to walk you through now what it expects you to do next. So it wants me to name my total work area, so I'll do that, and I'm just going to call it my job. You can change the color here. You can change the line thickness if you want to. That's a user preference. So I'm going to hit OK. And now you'll notice we have what we call a smart prompt bar up at the top in the shallow area just above my eraser. And the software is telling you what you need to do next. So it wants me to trace the total work area. Many of you may call this the area of disturbance. So I want to see the whole plan. I'll go back up here. I'll turn the zoom off. And I'm going to just click along my area of disturbance. And this is the area in which all our proposed work will take place, because we don't want you doing any work outside of where you're going to get paid. And I'll just finish tracing around. And you'll notice when you come to a curve, if you hold your left mouse button down, it brings up a zoom box around the pencil that you can trace. We'll talk more about that later on. That's our line tracker feature. Now, this last section, you don't need to try to get the last dot right up to this. If you go up to our Finish button, which is located right up here, and click on Finish, not only will the software finish enclosing your total work area, but it will bring up your job settings window. So I'm going to do that. And a couple of things I want to explain to you here. If you remember earlier, I mentioned to you that you can put up to 1 million cells on the site. Based on the scale, it has set us up at around 37,000. I'm going to set it so that I'm going to work at a lower width and height right now. So I'm going to adjust my height first, and I'm going to bring it down to about maybe just a little over 1.5 feet, and I'm going to do the same on my height, bring it down just under 1 foot. And again, you can change this on the fly as you get towards the end of your takeoff. You might want to turn this up a little bit higher. It'll give you a little bit tighter quantities. If you're in a very tight bid situation, it'll give you some extremely accurate quantities. But again, you can leave it right here too, and you'll be right on the money. At this point, I want to set in my lowest and highest elevation, and all this acts is a filter, so that if you put in something that's out of range, we'll pop up a little warning and say, did you really mean it? It's not within the range you initially set. Now, this particular job, my lowest elevation is at 1,900 feet, and my highest is at 2,000. We also might want to take a surface strip here over the whole job site. So let's say we want to do that. If this had been maybe the second or third time that I had opened the drawing and I had entered my bore logs and built up my strata file, I could actually strip down to the bottom of any one of the strata levels that I had in my file, and I could also set my swell and shrink percentage. So I'm going to click Done here. So that's what we've got so far. I'm going to zoom out of this so you can see the whole drawing. I'm going to come up here now, and I'm going to save the takeoff. And I'm going to just call it my job. And what I'm going to do now is I am going to import and go get the CAD file that belongs to this PDF. So I'm going to click on my import icon, and I'm going to take the second option. I'm going to open a new file because this was just a PDF. I want to go and I want to get that CAD file now, and I'm going to click OK. And here's my CAD file. It's a DWG. Again, you could use a DXF. In fact, if you can get a DXF, from your architect or engineer, there's even more information we can pull out of it. And it's very easy for them to do that. They can just, in AutoCAD, save it as a DWG, a DXF, a PDF with vectors. It's just a save as ability for them. So I'll click on the DWG file. I'll open it. And now this tells me that it's going to use that for the import process. So we'll say OK. Now you'll notice in the prompt bar, it's telling me to touch 2 match points on the PDF that as when the CAD file opens, I can send information from the CAD directly over to here. And if I put my match points on correctly, everything will be lined up properly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this corner of my pad. I like to use the corners of pads. I'll click on that corner and that corner. That'll open up my, my CAD file. And here's my CAD file. You'll notice it's on a different angle. No need to be concerned about that. It could even be upside down. Using match points allows us not to have to worry about the orientation of the drawing itself. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in because I want to set my match points first, and I want to pick up the match points on that building again. I'm going to use the same ones. So the very first thing I'll do is click on Setup, and I'll say Set Match Points, and I'm going to use that corner and that corner again. So my match points are set. Now, if you'd like, you can click on the Layers button and see how the engineer, or if the engineer wasn't in between you and the architect, how the architect set up the layers in this CAD file. And what I normally recommend is clearing everything, and then just clicking on each one so you can see how he laid it out. But I'm very familiar with this job, so I'm going to close that window, and I'm going to tell the software that I want to begin importing immediately. So I'm just going to go over to my Import button, and I'm going to bring in solid lines. You can see that you can bring in dotted lines, you can bring in pads, you can bring in regions. In our software, just the way probably most of you estimators think of it, a pad has a constant elevation, but a region like a parking lot, a curb, or a street would all have varying elevations. So we would call that a region. But I'm going to do some contours right now. I'm going to use solid lines. And because it's a CAD file, which is made for engineering, I'm going to bring everything in by layer, because about 99.9% of the time, you're going to get a good layered CAD from the engineer. And we'll bring in the existing first. I'll hit OK. Now all you need to do is click on one of your existing lines, because we did say we're bringing it in as a layer. So we'll click on that, and you can see it lights up the whole layer in blue. There are 368 topos here. And I'm going to click Proceed. And now if I begin to just verify the first couple of topos here, make sure they're within the range. They're all in the range, because remember I set it for 1900 to 2000. So the first few I can see they're all within that range. So and you go by this top window. I'm going to just click Finish. And when I say yes and turn my drawing off, you can see how quickly I just brought all those topos and all those elevations in, and they're very accurate. You could get close by hand, but it would certainly be very tedious, and I'd be willing to bet that it would take you some time to do that. This is very fast, very accurate, and now I can go up and I can click on my Import button again. And by the way, if you use dual monitors, our software is already set up for dual monitors. You can put the utility on one monitor and have your PDF and Takeoff on the other monitor, so you can see these things go across automatically. So if you got dual monitors, it's already set up for that. Let's go back to Import. I'm going to click on Import. I'm going to say I'm going to bring in a layer again, but this time I want to bring in our proposed layer. So I'll click on that. And my proposed layer on this particular drawing is in light blue here, so I'm going to click on those. Lights it up. We've got 68 items, and I've got a little retaining pond here. You know what a hassle those can be. So you've got a lot of change of direction. So having it in a CAD or a vector PDF makes it very, very easy to import. I'll click Proceed. So we'll do the same thing, and it highlights the very first one it's bringing in. So again, you're just going to verify the first few, make sure they're within range. I mean, you can go through and verify all of them if you want. Again, it's just clicking this arrow. You're going by this top button here. If something was out of range, you noticed something was wrong with it. Sometimes the engineers or the architects do make a mistake. It's rare on a CAD file, but sometimes they do. You can just go in here and put the new number in and hit apply. But in this case, these all look pretty good, so I get a good comfort level for it. I'll just click on finish. And now I've got my existing, I've got my proposed in it. If I wasn't taking the time to explain this to you, I could do this takeoff in under 3 minutes. I've done it even faster than that. Let's go back to the import. Let's grab that building as our final item. So I'm going to click import. We'll say we're going to bring over the pad. And let's see, that pad is this yellow line here. We'll bring that in. And we'll tell it it's a proposed pad. The engineer in this case chose not to give the information on the pad. He just gave us the footprint of the pad. So we'll put the elevation in, and sometimes they do that. It depends on the engineer himself. And we'll name it, and then I'm just going to call this Stage 2 housing pad. Again, you can change the color. I'll hit OK. At this point, we could take another strip under the surface of the pad. You remember we took a 6-inch off the entire site? In our software, if we were to take another 2 inches just under the pad, it would be cumulative under the pad, so we'd have 8 inches. But I'm going to go right to subgrades and balancing. Let's click on the subgrades. I'll click on that button. In our software, we ship it with a small library of subgrades, but you can come in and click on this button and add literally hundreds of different subgrades yourself. But for time's sake, today during the seminar, I'm going to choose what we have in here. So let's put some concrete in. Maybe we've got 10 inches of concrete. And I'll say OK. And maybe we got some crushed stone. And we'll put 8 inches of crushed stone in. And we'll do one more. Let's say we've got some sand. And now I'll cancel out of this. So I've got the 22 inches of subgrades. I'll click OK. The software verifies that. But now I've got a pad that all the way around the pad, I need to get my crew in, and I need to drop some equipment in. So let's do some over-excavation on it. And because we use the cell grid method, wherever those elevations change around that pad, we're going to pick up that cut and fill quantity. So I'm going to click on over-excavation. I'm going to tell it that we do want to calculate over-excavation. Now, you could do a vertical dig. In this particular case, I'm going to choose to do a slope with run to rise. And maybe I don't want a one-to-one run to rise, say that fast. So I'll click in there, and I can change either the run to rise or I can change the degrees off horizontal. Either one will automatically configure the other one. So let's say I want to make this a 35-degree off horizontal. You can see it automatically changed my run to rise. I'll hit OK. And then we can put in a side clearance of up to 10 feet. And you just have to remember that you enter it in inches. So if I was going to do 5 feet, I'll put 60 inches in here, and I'll hit OK. I'll draw your attention to this note. Cut volumes will be calculated from the existing surface to the bottom of the pad, and the fill volumes will be calculated from the bottom of the pad to the proposed elevations. So just the way you do it manually is the exact way that we would do it also. So I'll click Done. So if I turn the drawing off by clicking on the D, you can see that's what we have so far. Let's take a look at one of our shading maps. We process the thousands of cells on the job by clicking on any one of our maps, or going right to Excel, or clicking on one of the reports that we have. So here I'm going to click on our proposed map. Let's look at the proposed shading. So we're processing those cells. And here's our proposed map. Notice that the actual takeoff built on what we imported and exported is directly integrated on the map. And now if I want to show you a 3D of that, I'm going to turn the takeoff off so you can, well, actually I'll leave it on and we'll do the 3D first. Here's the 3D. Now, most of our competitors use the TIN network, that triangular regular network that I tell you about, or a very low density grid as opposed to our high density grid. One of the things that they have a problem with is they cannot show you the takeoff directly on the actual 3D. what they show you is a simulated 3D. I can show you that too, and I'll show you that in a minute. But what I want you to realize here, that this is the actual takeoff based on the information the software has so far, and this is the actual 3D model. And by the way, these colors are all interchangeable. I'm using a 4-color map now. You can use a 2-color if you like. Now, if I'd like, I can also, I'm going to turn the takeoff off for a minute here by clicking on the T, so we just see the 3D model. If you would like to see a simulation and do a flyover or a dive under, you can click on this. Now, we're on the internet, and we're going through a GoToMeeting seminar, so we're using up a lot of bandwidth. So this may look a little herky-jerky to you, but if the software was on your local computer or on your network, this would move as fast and as smooth as you could move your mouse, so that you can go in and take a good look all around the site and go under the site and so forth. If you right-click your mouse, you can actually turn the animation off and stop it from spinning. You can also see all the other options you have, like I can turn up my elevation magnification by hitting the Control and Page Up key. I like to do that sometimes just to make sure that I don't have a spike somewhere that doesn't belong that maybe I couldn't see well. So you can see how that changes the model. And again, because we are already configured for dual monitors, you can put this on one screen, and you can have your actual 3D on the other screen, and compare the two and so forth. And again, go up and over and look all around on this. So I just want you to realize that you have that type. You have both capabilities in Oz, but this is the simulation, the actual 3D that's tied into your takeoff and directly tied into your quantity cut and fill numbers. You'll see that when I press Excel, these numbers come up quickly. Now, we don't have a ton of information in here. All I've got is my topos, and I've got the flat pad, and I don't have a road in or a parking lot or anything like that. So the software is giving us the numbers as soon as I process the job for the information it has. So it's giving me my total work area, and then it's giving me my information for the pad, including the subgrades that I put in, their thickness, their volume, their weight, so that when you sit down to do your bid, you can easily make sure, and then we also have other analytical tools that I'll show you in a little while, but you can easily make sure that you accounted for all the subgrades that have to be accounted on this site. So that's how quickly you can import information into our software using either a CAD DXF or a DWG file, or if you happen to get a PDF with vector information. Now I'm going to close this, and I'm going to show you if you get a PDF file that is a typical PDF that has no information in it. We have to do it manually, and maybe it's a multiple-page PDF. So I'm going to close this particular file. Say no, and we'll go ahead and we'll open another drawing. And this time I'm going to open up a multi-page PDF. Now, this particular drawing does have information in it, vector information, but I'm going to choose not to use it because I want to show you if you have to trace or put items into the drawing when you take off manually. We've got some wonderful tools to be able to do that. But if you were going to use the vector information, this is what you'd see. This PDF page has vector data that you may be able to import without having to trace. But again, it's only as good as the way the engineer has broken up the layers. Sometimes they'll take the proposed layer and the existing layer and some text, and they'll put it all on one layer. So it makes it a little bit more difficult. We have tools to get around that, though, built into the software, but it's not quite as easy as the CAD I showed you. But if he breaks it up well, it is. So in this particular case, I'm going to choose to do things manually. So I'm going to do the same thing. We're going to set the scale. And I haven't used a known dimension line. I'll click OK, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click on my zoom to area. We'll zoom into that scale. And by the way, if you want to get very, very accurate, we have one more tool here. If you hold your right mouse button down when you're in the measure mode, when you see the pencil, it'll zoom you into almost pixel level so that you can drop that crosshair when you let go of your right mouse button right at the intersection of those two lines. So Talk about getting accurate. We can get you as accurate as you need to. I find when I'm doing demos in the morning and I've had 5 or 6 cups of coffee, this comes in real handy in landing that crosshair where you need it. Okay, so here we've got 80 feet, so I'm going to pop that in. And by the way, if you make a mistake, we have very powerful editing tools built into our software. You can go back in and you can edit your total work area, your scale, any topos, any subgrades, all can be edited on the fly at any time. So I'm going to name this job my job also. And again, we're going to trace the total work region. I think you're getting the hang of how our software works. All these drawings will open the same the very first time. So I'm just going to trace along, just click along where the total work area changes direction. And rather than hassle doing that final section, I'll let the software do it for us. And I'm going to set up our my cells on this job, and we'll work from about 1.5 feet to a little over a half foot there. On this particular job, my lowest is 1810, and my highest is 1850. And I'm going to take a surface strip on this one also, and we'll say it's 6 inches. I'll click done. Now, you'll notice that if I turn the drawing off, I've got my total work area in, we've set our scale, and we've done our job setting. But I've got other information on other pages on this file. And by the way, this particular PDF happens to be 5 pages. It could be 500 pages. The software doesn't care. They can all be at a different scale. The software doesn't care. And they can all be at a different orientation. Some could be landscape. Some could be portrait. Some can be upside down. The software will take care of all of that for you. It's not something you have to be concerned about as you're trying to do your takeoff. I'm going to turn the drawing back on, but I want you to notice I don't have any topos in here. I don't have a trench in here that I want to get, and I don't have some other information. I don't want to lose this information that I have, though. I want to take it with me to one of these other pages that I know has the information on it without losing what I've already done, because I may have done other things besides just that. So what we have is what we call our alternate plan configuration. I'm going to click on that. It's going to first prompt me to save my job, so I'll click OK. And we'll just say my job again. I'll click Save. And now it wants to know, is the other plan that I'm going to go to get information, is it on screen or is it on a digitizer? And I don't have a digitizer hooked up here right now, so I'll just choose on screen. But again, you can. We'll say OK, and then I'm going to tell it to proceed. And now the prompt bar wants me to enter 2 locator points on this page that I know are on the other pages so that we can match up the scales and the orientation of the drawing. So just like I did in the CAD file, I'm going to put 2 match points on here. And I'm going to zoom in. And I'm going to use, again, I like to use the corners of pads or wherever 2 lines intersect. And now it wants to know, is the page I'm going to in this current file, or is it somewhere else on your computer, on a portable drive, or on a network drive? I'm going to stick with here, if it is here. Like any good estimator, when I first opened this, I would have opened each page to get familiar what information is on it. So I already know, as you probably suspect, I've opened this drawing about 500 times, and I know that on page 2 is the information that I want. So now the software is asking me to select that page, so I'll go to page 2. So here's page 2, and you can see I've got all my topos on it. I've got a trench, and this is the page I want. So now the software wants me to enter those locator points again. So let's zoom in to that pad again. We'll put them in the same spot, and we'll put them in the same order. And once I do, you'll see the software will bring over what we did on page 1 to page 2. If I turn that drawing off again, you can see it's brought everything over and rescaled it if it needed to rescale it. So now I'm ready to enter my information. Now I'm going to show you a proprietary module that Roctek has built in, because remember, we've been doing this for 30 years. We've looked at every aspect and continue to look at every aspect to make it easier, faster, and more accurate for estimators and engineers to use. I'm going to show you something that our competitors cannot duplicate. When it comes to tracing manually online, almost all of them use either AutoTrace or AccuTrace. if you're evaluating software, evaluate in the proposed area. This is easy, the existing stuff. Usually you've got long lines, they don't change a lot of directions, you don't have a lot of elevation callouts, but have them show you how they trace manually in the proposed area. Because if I zoom in here, in fact, let me use my mouse. If I zoom in here, you can see I'm crossing lines, I've got changes of directions, I've got elevation callouts, I've got numbers in here, and AccuTrace and AutoTrace, when you cross over lines, change directions, or come down to where you get the elevation callouts, it doesn't know what to do. It needs input from you. Does it need to jump to the outside of this? Does it need to jump to a number? Does it need to jump to one of these other lines? I'm going to show you what our line tracker with dynamic zoom can do. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click on my topo button. And by the way, these are all our speed buttons. Topos, spot elevations, pads, regions, retaining walls, slopes, trenches, unchanged regions, and then entering strata and entering bore logs. And then we can also do some very simple measurements, length, area, count, and segments, and you can even build customized formulas. So we'll go through some of those in a few minutes. So right now I want to do some topos, so I'm going to click on the topo button, and we're going to do a proposed. And this particular one that I'm going to do, this first one, is at 1827. So I'll just pop that in. Again, you can change the color, you can change the line thickness if you wanted to. Don't need to. This is user preference only. And I'm going to start tracing this. Now, because we're on the internet and we've got a lot of bandwidth being used up with the video and the voice and GoToMeeting, it's going to look to you like I'm clicking my left mouse button and I'm placing dots. I'm not. I'm going to hold my left mouse button down and I'm going to drag my mouse. So I'm not clicking it. So I'm going to show you what's going to happen now. As I begin to drag it, I cross one line. Notice that it stays with me. I cross another line, stays with me. It's zoomed in and it's magnifying that line. You should be able to see that even over the internet. I'm changing directions. I'm coming down here. And we've actually written a logarithm for this. So the faster you go, the more accurate it is. You can come down. And when you get to a straight area like this, you can just click on the straight sections. And when you come to a curved area, you can just come around, hold your left mouse button down, and trace right around your curved area. You'll notice it stays, even though I went over to that plus sign, it stayed on the line. It's making some intelligent decisions about where it needs to go as I come across. So you don't need to be extremely accurate. You just need to be close to the line. And there are actually settings that you can set to either lessen the sensitivity or increase the sensitivity. So you can see how accurate that is. I mean, that makes it pretty easy to trace on screen. Now, like you do in any routine in our software, when you're finished, at least for the time being, you can just click on the Finish button. That tells us that for now, you're done. Now, I'm in the grab mode. I'm going to come down here, and I want to show you, if you do an existing, I'm going to try to make Line Tracker jump to the wrong line. Let's see if we can do it. It does have some intelligence in it, so let's do this one at 1825. And let's see, that's right here. So let's see if we can get it to jump. I'm going to come off here. And you can see you don't have to be very careful, very accurate. Let's see if we can get it to jump. Even then it wouldn't. Oh, there it jumped. Okay, so finally, you saw how close I had to get before that finally jumped. So when you do get an error like that, it's very, very simple. All you do is hit your backspace key, and that'll take you back to the dot just before you made that mistake, and then you can continue on as though nothing happened. And again, when you get to a straight area, all you need to do is click on that area. By the way, notice as I get to the end of the page, the pencil, if you have our nudge feature turned on, will automatically move the page over a set percentage that you can set. Now, I'll be honest with you, some contractors like that, some don't. You have the option of turning nudge on. If you don't turn it on, you can, I'm right-handed, so I've got my right hand on the mouse, but you could have your left hand on your arrow keys on the keyboard and use those to move the page. So it's that simple. If you got another topo to do, you just click here, put in the new topo. Let's say this one's at 1827. click OK, and then you can just, again, where the straight area is, just click along, and I'm going to come up here, and then when you're finished, just click Finish. Now, I'm not being very careful with this, but if you needed to do another one, when you put in the third one, it would take the interval between these two and automatically set it at 2 feet. So the rest of them you wouldn't even have to put in the elevation. So that's how easy it is to do topos. But I know most of you do pads, so let me show you how easy it is to do a pad. You click on the pad icon, and we'll do a proposed here. This one's at 1827.3. I'll stay with the red color. And here you don't have to hold your mouse button down. Just click where the pad changes direction. You can hold your left mouse button down and drag it if you want, but it's easier, I think, to do it this way. Let the software finish this off. Now, if this was the only pad I was doing, I would go up and click on the green finish, and it would enclose it for me, pull up my subgrades and my over-excavation window. But I know most of you have sites where you have to put in more than one pad. And the only difference might be is they're at different elevations, but they all use the same subgrades and maybe the same over-excavation as this first pad. We have a shortcut built in, so you don't have to enter those subgrades for each pad. Instead of hitting the green check mark, tell the software, I've got more pads coming. So you hit plus, and that's what this window tells you. And the following pads will use the same subgrades as this. So I'll hit OK. And we'll go in and we'll put our subgrades in, and just for time's sake, I'll just put one in here. And we'll hit cancel, and we'll hit OK. And then again, you can do your over-excavation. Again, for time's sake, I won't do it. We'll hit done. And now it brings up and wants you to put in the next pad. So we just need to put in a different elevation. I can put in 1830, and we can say this is our north pad, and maybe it's got an elevator shaft in it that we need to account for. So I'll click OK, and let's use our best imaginations and pretend this is a pad. I forget actually what it is on this drawing. And I don't want to finish this because there's one more thing I want to do. I want to tell the software I'm going to finish this pad off, but there's going to be an area in there that I want to subtract out. Let's use our imaginations again and say the engineer put in an elevator shaft in there that we need to account for. So now I'll click Finish. And now you can see I've got two pads. I've got an elevator shaft in here. And if I were to go up to my Edit menu, just to make sure this has the same subgrades as this, if I go up to my Edit menu, which is this big red E with the exclamation mark, when I click on it, you'll see a whole new toolbar come across. And I can actually delete something, change the color, change the elevation, change the description, change the subgrade attributes. I could even change the layer on it. In our software, in our WinEx Master software, you can work in 5 intermediate phases or layers, so that if in layer 1 you're coming in, you're going to do a little demo work and you need the numbers and the maps just for that phase. Phase 2, you're coming in, you're going to maybe lay down a pad or a parking lot. Phase 3, you're going to do a little bit more cut, put in a retention pond. I can give you the numbers on any one of those phases. I can give you the numbers in total, or I can give you the numbers from one phase to any other phase. So you can do that too. But let's check the attributes on that pad. You can see it's blinking, and I'll click on it. And if we click on subgrades, you can see it's got the one subgrade that we put in for here, the 8 inches. So if we had to add another one, we could, or edit that out, we could also do that. So anyways, that's how easy it is to put multiple pads in. And I'm going to click out of here now to get off the Edit menu. If you need to, we have a very powerful, what we call regions selection. We can put in regions with subgrades. And remember, we think of regions as having changing elevations. So I can put in curbs, parking lots, roadways, and pathways. I could put in a region of interest. Say I want to put a landscaping area in. I'm going to show you in just a minute this entire drawing finished. But we're in a tight bid situation. There's a lot of contractors bidding on it. I've got the ability to put in a region where the software will tell me how much dirt I have to either export or respread. I'll set up a landscaping area so that if I check with the engineer, I can say to him, listen, I can save you a couple $100,000 if you let me move some of this dirt around to one of these landscaping areas, and just go over the details with them, and the software will do that automatically for you. Or you can do a don't disturb region. So in this particular case, I'll quickly put in a sidewalk just to show you that. And let's pretend that says sidewalk. By the way, in our software, You want to name everything because when we break out the report information, we'll break that out with all the detail behind what belongs to the sidewalk, the roadway, the building. I'll end that here just for time's sake. So I'm just tracing this in. Again, you could use line tracker on this. You could hold your left mouse button down and trace along. And what I'll do is I'm going to finish this off now by going up to the Finish button. Click on Finish. Now it wants to know what subgrades that walkway is going to have. So maybe we're going to put in maybe a little bit of asphalt. I'll leave it at 4 inches, and maybe we're going to put some crushed stone in there. Say OK. And we'll say OK. And I'll say Done. And if I come back down, there's my walkway. And I could have made that a different color. But now let's say this walkway slopes for drainage. And this is the higher portion of it. And maybe it slopes down here into the parking lot for some drainage. Come over to your spot elevations. And for this particular routine, I use our connected spots. This is a very simple routine to put in. Click OK. And we'll say these are proposed. And I'll automatically change that to yellow. I've already got that set up for spot elevations. And again, software is telling me what it wants us to do, trace the path of where these spot elevations are going to be. So maybe I'm going to put one here, put one here, here, and here. And when I click Finish, now it tells me touch points along the trace where I want to enter those elevations. And my cursor, although it's a little difficult for you to see, is actually locked along that line. It won't let me put elevations in anywhere else. So I can put in, let's say, 1828 here and hit OK. Here I can put in 1826. I'll stick with that. And here we'll do 1824 and 1822, and I'll hit Finish. So now, when we give you the cut and fill quantities for this site and the maps, we'll give you along that gradient those elevation changes and what that does to your cut and fill quantity. So very, very easy to do. And again, you can put connected spots all over this. By the way, when you're in the hand mode, you're in the grab mode. So if you hold your left mouse button down and drag it, you can move the drawing anywhere that you want to. Now, one final thing I just want to bring to your attention. We can do retaining walls. We can do some very advanced slopes. And we can do some very advanced slopes where you need to sink a pad to a certain level. You know the angle you need to come out at, but you don't know where it's going to daylight. The software will automatically daylight to the proposed topographics based on all that cell information you put in, because we go out and we grab that and all those thousands of cells. So we'll auto daylight that. But you can also use our normal cut and fill slopes, and you can actually put a boundary around it so you can tell it where it needs to daylight to. So just be aware that that's there. I won't get into that routine now. Let's see, you can enter your trench information. In our software, you can work from plan and profile view at the same time. So if you get plans like that, like I know most of you do, just know that you can begin your takeoff on your profile view and then directly import it onto your plan view, or vice versa, however you want to work that routine. I've just got a plan view here, so I'm going to use that. I'll say OK. Name your trench and choose your color. Click OK. That brings up our trench designer. Again, because we use the cell grid method, this is very accurate. We'll take all these widths and all the changes along the trench as far as topographic information, and wherever we pick up changes, that's how we're going to figure your cut and fill quantities for this trench. Extremely accurate. This is a dynamic designer. Let's change the hinge here, and you'll see that change. When I go to the next window, we'll change the slope. Let's say it's a 0.8 slope, and so forth. We allow you to work with 3 layers here in this trench, and we choose this top layer. We colored green. If you click in here that it's native fill, we will not include it in your import-export numbers, because by clicking native, you're telling us you're going to put it back in the trench, that layer is good enough to be back in the trench. And then you can pick your other 2 layers, and you can add to that. It's a customizable library. You can choose your void type. You can enter in your pipe diameter, your pipe thickness, and so forth. You can actually go from proposed to proposed, from existing to proposed, and so forth. once it's all done, you can save it to your trench library so that if you do this kind of a trench often, maybe you only need to change 1 or 2 items, you'll be able to call it up. And then it's just a question of clicking on where that trench is, and let's come in here. And if I had put my manhole cover in, by the way, we use our count feature to put manhole covers in, and you can use different symbols for it. But here I'm going to come out at, let's see, I chose by the invert level, so I'm going to go in, I'm going to go up by that. Let's say 1822.35. By the way, you can choose by entering your numbers on the pipe by the invert, the middle of the pipe, or the top of the pipe. I have it set default for the invert. And here I'm coming in at, let's see, at 1821.80. I won't bother doing this whole thing, but I think you get the drift of how we do it. And I'm going out at 1821.70. And when you're all done laying out your pipe on the whole drawing, just come up and click on Finish. We'll give you not only the length of the trench, we'll give you the volume. We'll even give you, if you checked on that native fill button, and in your area, this trench is going to be open for several days in inclement weather, we'll tell you the square footage of that native fill. So if you need to go out and get some plastic sheathing or some other material to protect that fill from washing in, you'll have that. You can even go up to Configure and go to Default Settings, and you can go in and define different pay levels depending on the type of depth you're going through or the strata you need to cut through, however you want to set that up, and that will show up in your report. Now, for the sake of time, I'm going to close out of this. We'll go back. I'm going to take everything we did here, and we're going to go back to our first page. So we'll go back up to alternate plan, but now it says return to primary. So we'll do that. And here we're back on our first page. If I turn my drawing off, you can see everything we did on that second page now sits perfectly scaled on this page. And if I close this, which I'm going to do very quickly, I'll say no, and I think I have this job set up. Let's see if I can find it. Open drawing, open takeoff. I think I have this job already done that I did several months ago. Yeah, here's the same job. So if I want to process this job right now, here it is. There's my proposed map. Here's my cut and fill map, and I'm going to turn the takeoff off. I want you to notice these circles. These are the centers of mass. This is our cut and fill map. This is the center of mass where you want to place your equipment for most efficient use during the cut, and this for the fill. Notice under my wrist where the hand is, it says distance NA, but if you click anywhere on the site, like here, and then move the hand away, go back to that window, and you'll see the distance on how far you've moved the hand from that first click. So it gives you a pretty good perspective of distances on the site. And then, of course, I can come up to my strip and balance. I can come up to my strip and respread. And in this particular one, I set up several regions of interest that I call the landscape areas. The software is telling me I've got almost 2,000 cubic yards that I either need to export or respread. I don't have to tell you guys how expensive it is to export this stuff and how much those trucks cost and so forth. But let's say in landscape area 2, I've talked to the engineer and he says that I can respread some dirt around in there. We've talked it over. I can, actually that was landscape area 1. And let's say he said I can spread 13 inches along that whole site, and I'll hit apply. And that 13 inches is equal to 40.77 cubic yards. So you can see my respread has gone up, but my dirt for export has gone down. You can continue to do that so you can almost balance the site. You can also, we also have the ability to go in and balance the entire site. And by the way, after you move dirt around, you've got to reprocess the job, obviously. So we go back in and we reprocess it. And on this particular job, because I set up a number of different regions, well, I'll show you the 3D map on it first. By the way, before I got on this webinar, I had a company come on that does runways. So I showed them how our slope routine works so that they can put a runway in. And that can get pretty slick as you move along. And again, you can also do our simulated flyover and take a look. I'll take the animation off. and then I'll turn the wireframe back on, and you can really take a look, and you can see if there's any problems with the site very easily. So that's the software, gentlemen. Oh, by the way, just quickly, I'll show you one of the reports that we have built in. Because remember, when you process the job, you process not only the maps and the takeoff, but we process all the quantities, and you're able to produce a very formal report. You can change all of this up here. There are options to set. We give you the breakdown of everything on this job site so that you can not only check your own numbers, but check your subs, if that's what you're getting the software for. Right down to, if I go all the way down, these are for all the regions that I put on this job, but I'm going to take you right down to the bottom. Here's your trench run with all the numbers for your trench, plus the material that was in the trench, the footing volumes, and so forth, and the different pay levels on the trench. So that's in Excel, and that's in the report, and you can manipulate that any